before the noise of the day begins, before your phone lights up, before responsibilities call your name, and before fear tries to take its place in your thoughts. Pause here for a moment. Do not rush. There are mornings when the body rises, but the soul still feels tired. There are mornings when you open your eyes and the weight of yesterday is already waiting beside you. The questions return before you even leave your bed. The worries speak before you have spoken a word. The decisions ahead feel heavy. And deep within, you wonder if you have the strength to face another day. But this morning, before fear speaks too loudly, before anxiety writes the story of your day, before the world tells you who you are and what you must carry, come before the Lord. Come as you are, not with perfect words, not with a perfect heart, not with every answer already in your hands. Come with your tiredness. Come with your uncertainty. Come with the thoughts you cannot explain and the burdens you have carried in silence. The Lord is not asking you to hide your weakness from Him. He is inviting you to bring it into His presence. There is something holy about the first moments of the morning. The world has not yet taken everything from you. The day has not yet scattered your attention. Your heart is still close enough to silence to hear the gentle call of God. And in that quiet place, the Lord invites you to lay your steps before Him. This is where Psalm 5 begins. Give ear to my words. O Lord, consider my sighing. Listen to my cry for help, my King and my God. For to you I pray. In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my request before you and wait expectantly. These words are not distant poetry. They are the cry of a heart that knows where to go before the battle begins. David did not wait until the day had overwhelmed him. He did not wait until fear had already taken control. He came to God in the morning. He brought his words, his sighing, his cry for help, and his requests before the Lord. And then he waited expectantly. That is the posture of faith. Faith does not pretend that life is easy. Faith does not deny the pressure, the pain, the uncertainty, or the battles waiting ahead. Faith simply knows where to stand before all of it begins. It stands before God. It lifts its eyes before it looks at the problem. It opens its hands before it tries to control the outcome. It says, Lord, before I step into this day, I place this day in your hands. Maybe this morning, there are decisions you do not know how to make. Maybe there are conversations you are afraid to have. Maybe your heart is still carrying something that happened yesterday, last week, or many years ago. Maybe you have prayed before, and heaven has felt silent. Maybe you are still waiting for an answer that has not yet come. But Psalm 5 reminds you of this sacred truth. The Lord hears your voice in the morning. Your prayer is not lost. Your sigh is not ignored. Your tears are not unseen. Your waiting is not meaningless. The Father hears what others cannot hear. He understands what you cannot fully explain. Even when your prayer is only a whisper, even when all you can offer is a tired breath before the day begins, He is near enough to receive it. So let this morning become more than a routine. Let it become a surrender. Before you carry your burdens into the day, lay them before God. Before you try to solve everything in your own strength, acknowledge the one who holds wisdom beyond your understanding. Before you let fear guide your steps, ask the Lord to lead you. Say within your heart, Lord, guide my steps today. Order my thoughts. Guard my words. Strengthen my spirit. Teach me to walk not by fear, but by faith. The day ahead may still contain challenges, The questions may not all be answered at once. The path may not become clear in a single moment. But something changes when your first movement is toward God. Your soul remembers that you are not alone. Your heart remembers that there is a king above every circumstance. Your spirit remembers that the Lord who hears you in the morning will walk with you through the entire day. So, breathe deeply. Release what you cannot control. Place this day before the Lord. And before God guides your steps, He first invites your heart to become still before Him. There is a sacred power hidden in the morning. Before the day becomes crowded with voices, before your mind is pulled in 100 directions, before the weight of responsibility settles fully on your shoulders, God gives you a quiet opening, a holy beginning, a moment where your heart can turn toward Him before it turns toward everything else. This is what David understood. He did not treat the morning as an empty space to be filled by worry. He treated it as sacred ground. He knew that the first direction of the heart often shapes the direction of the whole day. So, before the battles began, before the demands increased, before the voices of men surrounded him, he lifted his voice to the Lord. In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. That simple truth carries great strength. It means your morning prayer matters. It means God is not too distant to listen. It means heaven is not closed when you open your eyes. It means that before you step into the uncertainty of the day, there is already a Father willing to receive your words, your fears, your question, and your surrender. David did not only bring requests to God, he brought relationship. He said, "My King and my God." Not just the King, not just the God of Israel, not just the Lord of armies, nation, and history. He said, "My King and my God." There is deep intimacy in those words. David knew that the God who ruled over creation also cared for the cries of his heart. He knew that divine authority was not cold or distant. It was personal. It was near. It was faithful. The one who held the universe together was also the one who listened in the morning. And this is the invitation before you today. You are not beginning this day under the rule of fear. You are not beginning it under the authority of anxiety. You are not beginning it as someone abandoned to confusion, chance, or pressure. When you come before the Lord in the morning, you are declaring that your life belongs under a higher authority. The Lord is my King and my God. Let those words settle deep within you. When you call Him your King, you are acknowledging that your life does not have to be governed by panic. Your future is not ruled by the opinions of others. Your peace is not subject to every change in your circumstances. Your steps are not left to blind uncertainty. A king rules. A king protects. A king establishes order. A king has authority over what threatens his people. So, when you say, "The Lord is my King and my God," you are placing your day beneath His rule. You are saying, "Lord, govern my thoughts, govern my decisions, govern my reactions. Govern the words I speak and the paths I choose. Do not let fear sit on the throne of my heart today. Do not let confusion lead me. Do not let discouragement define me. You are my King. And when you call Him your God, you are drawing near in trust. You are not speaking to a stranger. You are not reaching toward a distant power who does not know your name. You are coming before the one who sees what you carry, who knows the battles hidden behind your silence, who understands the prayers you have not found the strength to speak aloud. This is why the morning is so important. The morning is not only the beginning of your schedule, it is the beginning of your surrender. It is the place where you decide what voice will lead you first. Will fear lead you? Will pressure lead you? Will yesterday's disappointment lead you, or will the Lord lead you? Psalm 5 teaches the soul to begin in the right place, not with control, but with prayer, not with panic, but with trust, not with self-reliance, but with surrender, not with noise, but with the quiet confidence that God hears. There may still be difficult things ahead today. There may still be questions that require wisdom, conversations that require patience, and burdens that require strength. Prayer does not always remove every challenge before you face it, but prayer places your heart in the hands of the one who will walk with you through it. And that changes everything, because a day that begins with God is not a day faced alone. A decision placed before Him is not carried in human wisdom only. A burden surrendered to Him is not borne by your strength alone. A heart that calls Him King is a heart being gently brought back into order. So, before you move forward, pause again. Let the words rise slowly from within you. The Lord is my King and my God. Say it not as a performance, but as a surrender. Say it not only with your lips, but with the places inside you that have been afraid. Say it over your confusion. Say it over your family. Say it over your work. Say it over the unknown road ahead. And when you call Him your King, you are no longer facing the day under your own strength. Prayer becomes powerful when the heart stops standing at a distance. It is possible to hear sacred words and still remain closed inside. It is possible to listen to a prayer and never truly enter it. The lips may be silent. The room may be quiet. The message may be beautiful. But deep within, the heart may still be holding back. And sometimes, that is where the real struggle begins. You may know how to pray, but still feel afraid to be fully honest with God. You may believe He is good, but still hesitate to place certain burdens in His hands. You may trust Him with some parts of your life, while quietly protecting the places where disappointment has wounded you the most. But this morning, the Lord is not inviting you into performance. He is inviting you into surrender. He is not asking for polished words. He is not asking you to sound strong. He is not asking you to pretend that everything is peaceful when your soul is still trembling. He is calling you to come with an open heart, with all the weariness, all the uncertainty, all the hidden questions, and all the burdens you do not know how to carry anymore. This is where prayer becomes more than sound. It becomes a meeting place. The Lord already knows what you are carrying. He knows the concern that returns again and again. He knows the fear you try to silence. He knows the decision that has been weighing on your mind. He knows the grief you have not explained to anyone. He knows the pressure you carry for your family, your future, your health, your work, and your faith. Nothing in you is hidden from Him. And still, He calls you near. Heavenly Father, we come before your presence with hearts full of gratitude and reverence. Let those words become more than an opening line. Let them become the posture of your soul. You are coming before the Father, not as a stranger, not as an intruder, not as someone who must earn the right to be heard. You are coming as a child who is deeply known and still deeply loved. Gratitude reminds the heart that God has been faithful before. Reverence reminds the heart that God is holy, sovereign, and worthy of trust. Together, they bring the soul into a sacred balance. You do not come carelessly, because the one you approach is holy, but you do not come fearfully, because the one you approach is your Father. So, open your heart slowly. Begin with what is real. Tell Him about the anxiety that has followed you into this morning. Tell Him about the place where you feel weak. Tell Him about the question you have carried quietly. Tell him about the answer you are still waiting for. Tell him about the burden you keep picking up after you have already tried to lay it down. The Lord is not offended by your honesty. A hidden burden often grows heavier, but a surrendered burden begins to lose its power. Not because every circumstance changes at once, but because your soul is no longer carrying it alone. When you bring something into the presence of God, you bring it under His wisdom, His mercy, His timing, and His care. That is why surrender is not weakness. Surrender is trust. It is the moment you stop gripping what you were never strong enough to control. It is the moment you admit that your understanding is limited. But God's faithfulness is not. It is the moment you say, Lord, I do not know how this will unfold, but I know I can place it before you. Some people pray while still holding tightly to the outcome. They bring their requests to God, but they keep their fear in their own hands. They ask for guidance, but still want control. They ask for peace, but continue listening to every voice of anxiety. But this morning can be different. You can place the burden down, not carelessly, not hopelessly, not as someone who has given up, but as someone who has finally remembered that the Father is able to carry what has been crushing your heart. So breathe deeply in His presence. Let the noise become quiet. Let the hidden place inside you open before Him. Say to the Lord, Father, I give you what I cannot fix. I give you what I cannot understand. I give you what I cannot control. Lead me with your wisdom. Hold me with your love. Teach me to trust you in this moment. Not only after the answer comes, and as your heart opens, do not rush away. Stay here long enough for your soul to become still. Stay here long enough to remember that prayer is not only asking, it is resting before the one who hears. Stay here long enough for the burden to move from your hands into His. What changes the morning is not the sound of many words, but the moment a heart finally stops hiding from God. There comes a moment in prayer when the heart can no longer carry everything alone. At first, you may come before God with quiet words. You may begin by asking for peace, for strength, for guidance through the day. But as the soul becomes still, deeper burdens begin to rise. The things you tried to manage, the fears you tried to ignore, the names of people you love, the decisions waiting ahead, the places where you feel weak, pressured, uncertain, or afraid. And in the presence of the Father, you do not have to hide any of them. Psalm 5 teaches us to lay our requests before the Lord and wait expectantly, not anxiously, not desperately clinging to control, not demanding that God move according to our schedule, but placing every need before Him with humble trust, believing that He hears, He says, and He knows what is best. Father, we do the same this morning. We lay before you our needs, our concerns, our burdens, our dreams. Let this be the movement of your heart now. Lay your mind before Him. Every anxious thought, every fear that has disturbed your sleep, every question that has circled in your mind without rest, place it before the Father. Ask Him to guard your thoughts with His peace. Ask Him to silence the lies that have made you feel forgotten, unworthy, or alone. Ask Him to fill your mind with truth strong enough to stand against fear. You do not need to win the battle of the mind by your own strength. The Lord is near to steady you. Lay your family before Him, the people you worry about, the relationships that feel strained, the conversations that have become difficult, the loved ones who are distant, hurting, rebellious, weary, or lost. Place them in the hands of the Father. His love for them is deeper than yours. His reach is greater than yours. His wisdom is higher than yours. You may not be able to change every heart, heal every wound, or fix every broken place. But you can pray. You can trust. You can keep loving with patience while God works in ways you cannot yet see. Lay your finances before Him, not with panic, not with shame, not with the fear that you must carry every need alone. Bring Him the bills, the pressure, the uncertainty, the desire to provide, the need for wisdom, the longing to be faithful with what He has placed in your hands. Ask Him not only for provision, but for discipline, contentment, generosity, and discernment. The Father knows what you need before you ask. He is not careless with the needs of His children. And even in seasons of limitation, He can teach your heart to trust Him one step at a time. Lay your health before Him. Bring Him the weakness in your body, the pain you cannot explain, the fatigue no one sees, the concern that rises when you think about tomorrow. Bring Him your need for healing, endurance, courage, and peace, whether the answer comes quickly or slowly, whether the road is clear or still uncertain. Place your body and your breath in His hands. He is compassionate toward human weakness. He is not distant from suffering. He meets His people not only in strength, but also in frailty. Lay your work before Him, the responsibilities, the pressure, the people you must face, the decisions you must make, the places where you need favor, wisdom, patience, and excellence. Ask the Lord to guide your words, your attitude, your choices, and your influence. Let your work become more than survival. Let it become a place where your faith is quietly lived. Even ordinary tasks can become sacred when they are surrendered to God. And lay your future before Him, the plans you understand and the ones you do not, the doors that are opening and the doors that are closing, the dreams that still live in your heart, the disappointments you do not know how to interpret, the timeline that feels slower than you expected. Place it all before the Father. You do not have to force the future open. You do not have to know the whole road before you take the next faithful step. The Lord who hears you in the morning is already present in the days you have not yet reached. So do not come before God as though He only cares about the spiritual parts of your life. Bring Him everything: your thoughts, your family, your needs, your fears, your hopes, your wounds, your decisions, your waiting. Nothing is too heavy for His hands. Nothing is too small for His attention. Nothing is too hidden for His mercy. And when every burden is finally placed in His hands, the soul begins to learn what peace truly means. After every burden has been placed before the Father, the heart begins to understand something sacred. God does not only receive what we surrender, He also gives what we need to continue. He does not invite you to pray and then leave you empty. He does not ask you to trust Him and then abandon you to face the day alone. When you come before Him with your weakness, He meets you with strength. When you bring Him your confusion, He gives wisdom. When you bring Him your fear, He surrounds you with peace that is deeper than the circumstances around you. The Lord is not only the God who listens, He is the God who equips. He prepares His children for the road ahead, not by showing them every detail at once, but by giving them grace for the next step. He may not reveal the whole path this morning. He may not answer every question in the way you expected, but He will give you what is needed to walk faithfully through this day. So ask Him for wisdom, not the wisdom of human pride, not the wisdom that depends only on experience, logic, or control, but the wisdom that comes from above, The wisdom to know when to speak and when to remain silent. The wisdom to recognize what is from God and what is only pressure. The wisdom to choose peace over reaction, obedience over fear, and patience over haste. Some decisions ahead may feel too heavy for you. Some situations may seem unclear. Some doors may look open. But not every open door leads to God's will. That is why you need His guidance. That is why your morning prayer matters. Before you move forward, let the Lord order your steps. Ask Him for strength. Not only physical strength, but the quiet strength of the Spirit. The strength to continue when you feel tired. The strength to love when your heart has been wounded. The strength to forgive when bitterness tries to settle inside you. The strength to keep praying when the answer has not yet come. The strength to remain faithful when no one sees the hidden battles you are fighting. God's strength does not always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it comes gently, like enough breath for the next moment, enough courage for one more step, enough peace to answer softly, enough faith to rise again, enough grace to say, Lord, I cannot do this without you, but I believe you are with me. Ask Him for protection. There are dangers you can see, and there are dangers you cannot see. There are temptations that appear harmless. There are distractions that slowly pull the heart away from prayer. There are fears that try to shape your decisions before you recognize their voice. But the Lord is able to guard what belongs to Him. Ask Him to protect your mind from lies, your heart from bitterness, your words from harm, your relationships from division, and your purpose from distraction. Ask Him to close the doors that would lead you away from His will, and to open the doors that align with His purpose for your life. Protection does not mean the road will always be easy. It means you do not walk that road uncovered. Ask Him for peace, not the fragile peace that depends on everything going well, but the peace that remains when life is still uncertain. The peace that steadies your breathing when anxiety rises. The peace that reminds your heart that God is present, even before the answer appears. The peace that guards you from being ruled by what you cannot control. There may still be opposition. There may still be delay. There may still be moments when your emotions rise and your faith feels small. But do not measure God's nearness by the absence of difficulty. The Lord is often most deeply known in the place where you must lean on Him completely. So declare your trust again. We declare our trust in you, Lord, to move forward without fear. Let this become the prayer of your steps. You are not saying there is nothing frightening ahead. You are saying fear will not be your master. You are not saying you understand everything. You are saying the Lord is worthy of your trust. You are not saying the path is simple. You are saying God is faithful on the path. Move forward slowly. But do not move forward alone. Carry His wisdom into your decisions. Carry His strength into your weakness. Carry His protection into your unseen battles. Carry His peace into the places that once overwhelmed you. Faith does not always remove the road ahead, but it teaches the heart to walk it with God. The prayer may come to an end, but the presence of God does not leave you when the final word is spoken. What began in the morning is meant to walk with you through the day. Psalm 5 is not only a prayer for the quiet place. It is a way of carrying truth into ordinary moments, into difficult decisions, into unexpected pressure, and into the places where your heart may be tempted to forget what God has already spoken. Because the day can change quickly. A peaceful morning can become a stressful afternoon. A calm heart can suddenly feel overwhelmed by one conversation, one message, one problem, one delay. You may begin with faith, but somewhere along the way, fear may try to return. You may begin with surrender, but control may quietly reach for your heart again. That is why you must carry Psalm 5 with you. Not as a burden, not as a ritual, not as a formula, but as an anchor. When you wake up, before the noise begins, whisper this: Lord, you hear my voice. Say it slowly. Let your soul believe it before your mind begins to race. Before you check your phone, before you review your tasks, before you begin measuring the strength you think you have, remind your heart that God hears you. Your voice matters to Him. Your morning matters to Him. Your needs are not too small for His attention. This one sentence can change the posture of your day. It teaches the heart to begin with trust instead of fear. It reminds you that you are not speaking into emptiness. The Father is attentive. He is near. He is not distracted by the needs of the world. He is able to hear you personally, lovingly, and faithfully. And when you face a difficult decision, when your thoughts feel unclear, when you stand at a crossroads and do not know which way to go, whisper this: You are my King and my God. Let that declaration bring order to your heart. If He is your King, then confusion does not have the final authority. If He is your God, then you are not abandoned to your own understanding. You can pause before reacting. You can pray before choosing. You can wait before rushing. You can ask for wisdom, believing that the Lord knows the way, even when you do not. There will be moments today when you want to force an answer. There will be moments when pressure tells you to move quickly. Speak quickly. Decide quickly. But the soul that remembers God as King can slow down. It can breathe. It can trust that guidance is not found in panic, but in surrender. And when you encounter opposition, criticism, spiritual pressure, or the quiet discouragement that tries to weaken your faith, whisper this: You surround me with your favor as with a shield. Do not say it carelessly. Say it as truth. God's favor does not mean you will never face difficulty. It means you are not uncovered in the difficulty. It means your life is held by the one who sees what comes against you. It means that even when you feel exposed, heaven has not forgotten you. The Lord is able to guard your heart, protect your steps, and sustain your spirit. Let this declaration steady you when people misunderstand you. Let it strengthen you when fear rises again. Let it remind you that you do not fight every battle with your own strength. Some battles are won by remaining hidden in God, by refusing to let bitterness lead, by choosing peace when your flesh wants to answer with anger. And as the day continues, return to this final declaration: The Lord hears my voice in the morning. This is not only something you say once. It is something you live from. When the morning belongs to God, the rest of the day is no longer disconnected from Him. Every task can become an offering. Every conversation can become a place for grace. Every delay can become a lesson in patience. Every burden can become an invitation to pray again. So, carry this truth gently. Carry it into your home. Carry it into your work. Carry it into your decisions. Carry it into your waiting. Carry it into the places where you feel strong, and into the places where you know you are weak. The Lord has heard you. He is not far from you. He will guide you with wisdom, cover you with mercy, and teach your heart to walk in peace. And as you step into this day, remember this: the day may begin with uncertainty, but it does not have to begin without God.